Welcome back to another exciting episode of Cyber Defense TV. I'm your host, Gary Malewski, and the publisher of Cyber Defense Magazine. Now, sitting in my hot seat today is a very special guest, Apurva Kumar, one of the leading security researchers, and she knows a lot about mobile malware, which is a very interesting area at a very cool company, Lookout, one of the leaders in security for mobile devices. Apurva, welcome.
Thank you very much, Gary.
So, and congrats on being one of the top 100 women in cybersecurity, a well-earned award for you. I think that's exciting.
Yes, it is very exciting. Thank you.
So give us kind of an update on the kind of new malware you're seeing hit mobile. And, do you have an idea of how many mobile devices are out there today? I mean, I would assume it's in the billions.
I would assume so. I don't have that number off the top of my head, but I don't know anyone who doesn't carry around at least one. And most people have more than one around their homes, in their cars, at their offices, wherever they go, really. That's just really the way that I think technology is headed. And with that kind of environment comes really difficult problems to solve, which I'm happy to get into. Basically, I think most people don't even know that mobile devices have malware or can have malware. It's starting to become a little more popular and a little more well-known, but that's been really my job for the last 3 years. You get a lot of interesting types of malware. And there's basically, I would say, two different types. The first would be kind of the usual adware or banking Trojans, whatever kind of subcategories you can call them, but their usual aim is to kind of scam you out of some money. So there's financially motivated mobile malware, and then there's usually surveillanceware or spyware, which is really just an invasion of privacy, which we consider to be, obviously much more heinous and way more important to be focused on.
There's been a lot of concerns about, the flow of information and data, and now all of us have gone from, let's say you worked at the office, right? You used to be at the office at Lookout every day, and at headquarters, maybe there's 1,000 employees in one big building. Now there's 1,000 remote offices during COVID, right? And that means your laptop, your tablet, your desktop, your netbook, your notebook, your smartphone, maybe your IoT devices are all part of your home network that's now connecting you to work. Is this something Lookout's concerned about, and how do you help people?
We're definitely very concerned about it. It's not something that's too surprising to us. I think that's the reason that we're focused on this particular field in the first place, is because this is really where this is headed. And I think the COVID pandemic has really pushed it in that direction. Instead of getting pushed, it's actually getting shoved in that direction for everybody. And so if you weren't using your mobile device for work, you probably are now. And that's a scary prospect, and especially with all of the other embedded systems that you can find in IoT devices and other systems that are running different operating systems with different vulnerabilities at different updates and different stages of development. Just all of these things thrown into the mix makes it quite a chaotic environment if you are a company trying to make your employees' devices secure and making sure that none of your corporate data gets leaked or exfiltrated by anything.
So Lookout is an agent that's installed on my mobile device with kind of a command center or dashboard at headquarters for the CISO?
That's correct. So the enterprise app for Lookout would generally be what is considered an antivirus on your device. It would mostly just look at the apps that are on your device and determine whether each of them were malicious or not. This data can also be seen. Generally, if you were installing it through a corporate policy, it would probably be able to be seen by your IT or your CISO at your company. It can also give you details about the various versions of all those apps, just in case any of those apps have some vulnerabilities, some known vulnerabilities so that people can sort of update them and avoid those problems. We also have another product which is called Phishing and Content Protection, and that's again, I think, the scariest portion of having this ability to perform your work on a mobile device. Basically, what happens is, because you're carrying it everywhere, you're not always focused all the time. Sometimes you're, making lunch or driving around, and you look at a particular notification that pops up on your screen, and it seems to be urgent or it seems to be interesting. And because you're half asleep or concentrating on something else, you happen to click the link, and suddenly, that in the worst case, that could lead to an exploitation of your device and a certain compromise. But in the best case, you might be coerced or forced or tricked into kind of entering credentials that may then lend access to somebody who your company might not want in their network.
Now, on mobile, I've heard that, there's new forms of phishing. I guess they call it vishing and smishing. They'll use SMS messages, they'll use voicemail, they use different things to make you think you should click on a WAV file to play or whatever it is, and it turns out to be an APK or some installer or some malware or side loader, or it takes you to a place that tries to trick you to collect information. You guys at Lookout are actually aware of this and watching this, and you're anti-phishing. Are you training people, or are you kind of man in the middling their email? How are you catching this and helping educate others to avoid, as you say, we're half asleep when we're clicking on things on our phone, or we're distracted, we're buying coffee or we're getting gasoline or we're waiting in line somewhere and we click and don't think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that one of the scariest possibilities is basically just doing things on autopilot and being able to get through this. Yes, the new possibilities of phishing and smishing exist, and we've seen actually quite a large number of malware families, which are types of malware that perform this type of phishing and smishing attacks. One of the most extreme type I would talk about was basically an app that would, pretend to be benign, as they always do, and then monitor basically the phone calls that you're making. And when they would see a particular banking number show up, they would put down the phone, call their own number, and behind that number is a whole call center or a group of people that are for you on the phone to tell you, yes, this is your bank. You phone them, obviously, it's your bank. You're not going to not believe that. And then work with you to sort of take all the information, legitimate information from you, and just happily use that as sort of a trick to get into your banking account and all of your financial details. So that is a campaign that's actually been spoken quite a number of times, that's active in Korea, in South Korea. But we've seen tons of those sorts of things. But it's really a large enterprise, makes people a lot of money, and is definitely one of the biggest issues when using your mobile device.
So that makes a lot of sense. Can you tell us, does Lookout offer any free tools, or is it consumer only? Is there SMB? Is it big enterprise? What's out there at Lookout where we want to send our viewers?
Yeah, of course. So if I'm not wrong, Lookout covers all those different areas. So we have a consumer product on the Google Play Store and the Apple Store, and the App Store. It is free for all users, but you can also pay subscription-based. So that also allows you to get a certain level of extended coverage overall. And then obviously there's the product available for enterprise, which they have separate solutions for SMB as well as for large enterprise companies.
That's great. Last question. Being a top 100 woman in cybersecurity, what would you tell young ladies who are in high school or college right now, if they wanted to get into the field you're in, break the glass ceiling? We have so many job openings in cyber. What would you recommend to them to do, to think about, or the courses to take, or the direction in their lives to take, or the certifications and things like that?
Yeah, I always say that I wish my teachers in school were as excited and interested and showed me this side of computing, because if I was told in university that I could be a hacker by doing computer science, I think I would have paid attention a little more in class. But I just feel like the best advice, at least for getting into cybersecurity and for coming into this field, is just being curious and being an explorer, and just like trying to find answers and answers to the questions that you want yourself, really, as opposed to waiting for, I guess, your professor to tell you about them, or waiting for other people to tell you about them. Really, this field excels, or you will excel at this field, if you are a curious person who just wants to find out how things work, which is really how I'm enjoying this journey at this moment as well.
That sounds great. So hacking and computer science can go together. it's got a bad reputation, but hacking is actually, years ago used to mean a good thing, that you could tear apart some code or figure out some hardware, not in a bad way, but we've got white hats and black hats, and our mission is to figure out how they're, doing what they're doing to get one step ahead of the next threat, which is very exciting. It's almost a cat and mouse game. So I agree with you. I think the field we're in is super exciting. Degrees in computer science never really focused on, hardening your source code or how to exploit a vulnerability. And I think over time we'll start to see the universities learn from your advice and others that this is a great way to draw in students, make it more exciting, make it a puzzle, make it fun, break things, right? And learn how the bad guys do it. So, Apurva Kumar, you are a top 100 woman in cybersecurity. You're a leading malware researcher at lookout.com and an expert in mobile security. And I'm just honored to have you here today. And we'll have another interview like this, I hope, in the near future.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you so much. And then come back next time for an exciting episode of Cyber Defense TV.